Welcome back to another episode of Morning Coffee. I'm your host, Rick Alexander. You guys can interact with me or follow me at @RickAlexander_ or at the Morning Coffee Podcast on Instagram. Now, if you're getting a lot from this show, if it's changing your life or even changing the way that you look at your life, it would mean the world to me if you would head to iTunes and give us a 5-star review so that we can continue to climb the charts and get this information to more and more people. Over the last year and a half, I've focused my work on the story that we tell ourselves about our lives. Your entire life is a bit of a story that you're telling yourself. And if you could tell yourself a different story, you could probably change your life quite a bit. And so I did that work for the release of my newest book, which is coming out in early 2020. But getting excited for that release, I actually wanted to go through a lot of the information that I had learned, a lot of my notes, and synthesize it into maxims, which is what we're getting into today. I've got 21 maxims to maximize your life, and what these are is just things that seem to be true about the human experience, and if you could understand how they are true, you could understand how they could change your life. And so if you go to rickalexander.com, what you're going to find is if you click on articles, the maxim of the day is going to be posted, whatever the last maxim was, and it's also going to have journal entries and thought experiments in there so that you can figure out how to apply these things to your own lives. And so a bit of an interactive experience. So throughout the next year, through my speaking, through my book release, and through these maxims, I'm excited to see how this information can really change the world and change your world if you give it an opportunity to. Today I want to have a candid conversation about what actually matters in life. Well, fundamentally, I think that everything matters. But the more you believe that to be true, the more it generally does. So you can think back a couple episodes ago, we did an episode on belief, and we talked about how your belief in yourself actually creates the environment that you actually need in order to succeed. Well, I would also say that your belief in everything that you do is the thing that empowers that thing to actually change your life, okay? And so what I mean by this is there are different ways to look at your life, right? There are a million lenses that you could look through. There are an unlimited number of lenses that you can view life through. But what might help you get your hands around it is you understand that not all of them are actually helpful, right? So just because you have a perspective doesn't mean it's one that's going to serve you or one that you need, all right? So one of the axioms that you hear spouted off quite frequently, especially today's day and age, is the universe doesn't give a fuck about you, right? And the only way you get to this belief is by zooming out far enough, right? So let's say you zoom out to the cosmic level. That's the view that you'd be looking through if you said the universe doesn't give a fuck about you, right? It's like nothing actually matters in the end because everything is just a grain of sand. Everything is sandcastles. It all gets washed away. And so everything is nothing if you can pull your perspective out far enough. But the thing to understand about your life is that you aren't at the cosmic level. And so that point of view is actually useless to you. It provides you nothing to make your life better. What's more is that the inverse actually seems to be true. And so the world that you live in actually rewards people that believe the opposite. So here's a way to think about this. The highest performers in the world that we know tend to elevate the mundane, and they treat even the most simplest actions with reverence. You know, I remember I won a foul shooting contest back in 6th grade. And I remember if you played basketball way back in the day, or if you've ever played basketball, you probably have this ritual for doing a free throw. It's like 1 backspin, 2 dribbles, and something else, right? And what you're actually doing is conditioning yourself to make the shot. So you've conditioned that behavior with that success metric. And so because it's been conditioned, that's why you see people use it. I remember in 6th grade, I had no idea really why people did that, except I just knew to do it because I would see other people doing it. You know, because basically we just learn by mimicking behavior until we make it our own. And so I remember actually doing that, but it actually hints at a much larger thing, which is, yeah, every little detail actually does matter. And so when you look at high performers who have like certain kinds of shoelaces for certain big games, and they haven't washed their game jersey, and they do, and the way that they set up their locker is like in a very specific way. It's easy to be on the outside and say, well, that's stupid. Everyone knows that the kinds of shoelaces you are wearing don't actually matter when you play football. Then you might ask, well, then why am I saying this from the sidelines? Why is the person that's wearing the cleats with the shoelaces that matter is the one in the arena that's actually getting the success, because it seems to be that the world actually rewards you when you act like every single thing in your life matters. That's the beauty of elevating the mundane. Now, you can go back to this other axiom. Like you're going to see it all over social media. The universe doesn't give a fuck about you. It's like, okay, that's actually an irrelevant view to you, right? The perspective that would give you that saying is from too far away, and that's not the world you live in. You have to look through your eyes. So you have to look through your perspective. So you have to find a perspective that actually matters to you, because maybe when you graduate to that cosmic level, you're on some other shit, right? And so maybe then you see that there's other things that matter, and that view might actually matter. And perhaps you could take great solace in the fact that we tend to get really bent out of shape about all of the little things that go on in our lives. And if you take a cosmic view, you realize in the grand scheme of things that all those little things we get bent out of shape, they don't really matter so much. And so you can imagine a perspective where that would help you. But to understand that you live in a certain world with certain principles. And so you can take whatever perspective you want, but that doesn't mean it's helpful. And just because you see it espoused on social media a lot or reposted or said a lot doesn't actually make it any more true. I don't know how many people have actually thought through the things that they're saying and could defend it with any sort of theoretical a priori statement. I think that most people couldn't. The universe may or may not give a fuck about you. Whether there's a certain tilt in the universe, it's irrelevant, because the world seems to reward those who act as if every single thing matters. And so what I would say to you is you're here now. And so you have to figure out how to act now. And so that might be a perspective that you say a lot, but it also might not be one that's actually serving you, might actually be irrelevant to you. The world you live in actually rewards people that believe the opposite. And so if you go down this line of logic, what you begin to understand is that reverence for life becomes a superpower in that way, right? And then the opposite is also true, as apathy becomes a depressive agent in your life. It's like we're here to feel and experience in a very real way. That's what it seems like. Like, again, I'm trying to never say like, well, this is the point of life. But it seems to me that one of the things you could say is that to have these deep, meaningful, astounding experiences is one of the purposes of life. Because when we go through deep, meaningful, astounding experiences, you feel like you're fully in life in a way that can be really hard to articulate. Like our words fall short of a really meaningful experience, right? It's like that's almost where art picks up the slack, where we can express the meaning of life in deep experience. And sometimes deep experience expresses the meaning of life better than we can actually articulate it ourselves. And so perhaps that's why apathy becomes this depressive agent in our lives. But I would just say in general, you have to think about what are the laws of the place that I live in. That's the whole point of these maxims in the first place. It's like there's all of these ways that we understand that they seem to be true. And if we conduct ourselves by them, it seems like they're going to point us towards success in some way. And so you can take the tack that nothing matters, right? And you can take the tack that everything you do is insignificant. But if you live that out, it's going to ruin your life. It won't make your life better at all, right? What actually will make your life better is the opposite. Again, one could conceive at a time after death where maybe that cosmic view actually serves you. Like it's the thing that keeps all the pain we go through down here in context, right? In some way. But again, that's not your perspective now. You know, and so you have to ask yourself, how does your current view of humanity and what you're doing here actually serve you? How does your current view of the universe actually serve you? A lot of times we have to believe something to be true in order for it to actually become true in our lives. And the reason being is that there are so many things that are true simultaneously. And so as you step toward the life that you want, the thing that you begin to understand is the more you believe that everything matters, the more it generally does. And the advantage of that is it's actually a view that will change your life. It's actually a perspective that you can add to your life right this second. You can decide to be all in on every single thing that happens in your life. You can decide to let nothing be inconsequential. And then the beauty is that you're rewarded by living a life where nothing is inconsequential. I love you guys. Hope you have an amazing day. We'll talk later on Morning Coffee.